Good evening, everyone. Before we call this meeting to order, we would like to swear in two newly board members elected for the 3-year term, Dr. Aruna Datesan and Dr. Moore. Please raise your right hand and read the required oath for school board members, stating your name, please. Unmute yourself, please.
I, Clifford Moore, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Aruna Datesan.
Yep. I, Vinod Jason, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people.
Thank you. Terrific. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I call this meeting to order at 7:36. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and/or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just for all.
I'll roll call your names. Dr. Aruna Datesan. Dr. Moore.
Aye.
Mr.
Here.
Kim.
Here.
Mr. Cass.
Here.
Mr. Capello.
Present.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mrs. Wagner.
Here.
Thank you. I'll read the result of the annual school election held November 2nd, 2021. Dr. Clifford Moore, at polls 2,209, absentee 419, a total 2,628. Dr. Vinu Aruna Datesan, 1,855, at polls, absentee 474, total 2,329. At this time, we'll proceed with the meeting, and I would like to ask for nomination for school board president.
If there are no objections, I would like to submit the name of Michael Anderson for the nomination for board president.
I'll second.
I'll roll call your names. Please state yes or no if you are in agreement. Dr. Aruna Datesan.
Yes.
Dr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Kim.
Yes.
Mr. Cass.
Yes.
Mr. Capello.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Mr. Anderson. And now you can proceed assuming the board meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Gorowski, and thank you, everyone. Moving on with our agenda, I will open up for nominations for vice president.
If there are no objections, I'd like to nominate Mr. Dino Capello for vice president.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. Mr. Kim, any other nominations for vice president? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr.
Yes.
Aruna Tyson,
Yes.
Dr. Moore, Ms.
Yes.
Kim, Mr. Cass, Mr.
Yes.
Capello,
Yes, and I have a little visitor here that came to say hello.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner.
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations, Mr. Capello.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Next part of our agenda is president's comments. I don't really have a lot to say this evening. I did put a few words together just as we kind of think about going into this year, obviously in unprecedented conditions as we find ourselves back in a virtual meeting setting and unfortunately having to delay this just a couple days. But first of all, I'd like to start by thanking my fellow board members for their confidence in having me serve as president for this year. Like I said, we start this year under continuing difficult conditions due to the surge of COVID recently. We've learned a tremendous amount, and I'm extremely proud of our administration, our teachers, every staff member we have in the district for finding ways to keep our students in the best place they can learn, which is in our schools. Unfortunately, due to some recent circumstances, we have a temporary time where we've had to put our students back on virtual, but I know that our administration is finding every way possible to get our students back in the place where they learn the best and we found can keep them safe, which is in our schools. In my opinion, we're in a transition period here, the pandemic, where we're moving into the world of where we learn to live with COVID on a daily basis. We now need to focus on recovery of our students, which I know has already started with our administration, our teachers, and our staff members. Learning loss, mental struggles, emotional difficulties. We need to continue to find ways to help our students to get through these many issues. I thank our administration for their incredible work. And as board president, I just want to make a final statement saying that please know that you have the board support in whatever you need, what is best for our students. So thank you for our administration. Thank you for the board. I do look forward to a productive year and really excited to welcome 2 new board members on our board. It's always great. One of the things I find about our Board of Education is that we are very open to everyone's opinion. We appreciate the fact that the 7 of us come from differing opinions. We are very open and respectful to hear those opinions. And I welcome both our new board members into the board and look forward to having you add to all of the good things that we do. So that's all I have for president's comments. Committees, Damaris, typically we hold off on that. I'd like to do the same thing. Is that okay if we kind of finalize those before the next meeting?
Absolutely. Tonight, during the discussion item, you can ask anybody to email you with their preferences on the committees. And then for the following board meeting, hopefully we can approve them.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. We'll do that. All right. Let's open up to our next section of the agenda, which is open for public discussion, agenda items only. I'm just looking through to give the introduction for public comment. It might be on the other agenda. I think it is. Hang with me 1 second here. Okay, I'm going to read just a quick blurb to introduce our open public comment section. The purpose of bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings, is to recognize the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the participant must preface comments by an announcement of their name and place of residence. Statements made by participants should be limited to 3 minutes duration, and no participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements, questions, or inquiries should be directed to the board president. And just as a final reminder, the first open public comment section of our meeting, or this portion of the meeting, will be for agenda items only. We will have a subsequent open public comment section later in our agenda, which will be for any subjects germane to the board. So with that, I will open public comments at 7:45 p.m. If you'd like to make a comment, actually, if you're online, if you could use the raise hand feature within the app, or you can unmute yourself and we can call on you.
Mr. Anderson, we do have 2 emailed comments. Not really agenda items, so it's really could go to the second one.
Okay, we can hold off onto the second public comment section. Anybody from the public have any requests to speak? Like I said, you can unmute yourself and speak up. We will call on you. We'll give it a couple minutes. You can also put a comment in the comment section if you'd like to be heard. That way we can call you out. Just to clarify, Dr. Forte, public members are able to unmute themselves directly. Is that correct? You're muted.
Everybody should be able to unmute themselves, Mr. Anderson.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Cindy.
If they are not, if anybody is not unable to unmute yourself, please send a message in the chat and I'll unmute you.
Thank you. I'm going to give it just one more minute here to make sure that if anybody's having some technical difficulties, they can make sure they're heard. Okay, seeing no one come forward, I am going to close our first open public comment section at 7:47 p.m. And we're going to move on with our agenda. Mrs. Wagner, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind walking us through our first section, which is appointments?
I wouldn't mind, except that I'm having some technical difficulties right now. Sorry, I can't
Oh,
see.
that's okay.
Mike, if you want, I can do it.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. Capello.
Okay. All right. If there are no objections under appointments, I would like to move items 1 through 21. These include administrative appointments for the district for the year, including items like auditors, insurance agents, attorneys, agents of record for various functions, consulting, and statutory appointments that we have to make.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Capello and Mr. Kim. Appreciate it. Any questions, comments with regards to the appointments?
For number 15, we would add Mr. Anderson to the blank space there.
Mr. Capello, Mr. Kim, you're okay with that?
Yep, all good.
Absolutely.
I had a question on number 20. Our non-resident tuition rate. I recall that we made some adjustments for that for in-house personnel due to COVID to have their kids schooled here with them due to, not being able to either go to their schools or have to be home virtually, et cetera.
We did that as a sidebar with the union because it's in the union contract. So that's a separate wording for that, where they have a 25% of the cost rather than 50%.
Yeah. Okay.
It's continued for this year, but we haven't decided about if it's going to continue for next year.
Yeah. Well, you never know the way things are going. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Aruna Detoson,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, adoption of our public calendar. Mr. Kim, would you mind moving that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I motion that we move and adopt the resolution for the 2022 Board of Education public meeting calendar.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. Questions, comments?
Actually, a question from my side. This is on the website, the calendar. Yeah, the 2022 one.
It is on the Google document folder that we sent with a
Okay.
link.
Okay.
And once we approve it this evening, it will then be posted on the website, correct?
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. The same.
And if you need, I can email you a copy as well later on tonight.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Aruna Detoson, Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to good of the cause. Under discussion items, we have school board member code of ethics. I'm just looking through my files here. We should all have that in the drive, correct?
There's a copy on the drive, and I will appreciate in everybody after we read the oath, we can sign and scan me a copy tomorrow.
Absolutely, we can do that. And to kind of get it on record, do any of the board members want to go through and read it? We typically do this just for public that they hear our code of ethics.
Sure. Mr. Anderson, do you want to round robin this, like have a board member read each one?
Sure, absolutely. Is everybody, all the board members have it in front of them?
No, I do not.
But to make it quicker, let me find here.
Can
Do
you
you want
share?
to, Mr. Kim, do you want to take maybe the first ABC,
Sure.
Mr. Capello take DEF, and I can take the remainder?
For the
Code of
two
ethics
board-
for school board member, New Jersey statute 18A 12-24.1. A school board member shall abide by the following code of ethics for school board members. A, I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures. B, I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. C, I will confine my board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them.
D, I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run. E, I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board. F, I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups or to use the schools for personal gain or the gain of friends.
G, I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and, in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the school staff aspirations of the school for its school for the community for its schools. H, I will vote to appoint the best qualified individuals available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer. I will support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties. J, I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution. So that is our school board code of ethics. In addition, under good of the cause, and as a reminder, Mrs. Gorowski would like us all to sign and scan a copy back to her tomorrow. And in addition, as Mrs. Gorowski mentioned, for committees, if anybody has places or committees they'd like to be on or request, I will send over a list of the committees as well as the liaison positions. If you have any preferences, let me know. We'll do our best to kind of fit everybody in, and I will be in communication late this week or early next week on kind of finalizing that list. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause or discussion items?
I have 2 items. I talked to Laura about this when we were rescheduling the meeting, and we're not going to do it tonight, and probably have to check with our council too. But I think when you have a situation like we had here with an uptick in COVID, and we had to make a meeting change, it was primarily due to we announced the meeting and did not say that we would have a virtual option or the possibility of doing virtual. So I'm just thinking that when we post the dates of our meetings and the time of the meetings, that we word that invitation and announcement to put something in there about that it may be virtual based on certain circumstances, like we had this week. The other thing I mentioned to Laura was that by law, we were supposed to have a new president at the first meeting. And again, that was postponed by a few days. And I hope it never happens again. But you could have a massive blizzard or another pandemic, and they're not able to install the president at the appropriate date that's legally required. So we probably should look at our policy about that and work something out to either do it virtually real quick or extend the prior president for whatever reasonable period the board would agree to, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. But all of this could happen again. Very disruptive, and having those 2 procedures in place would make things run a lot smoother and save a lot of time. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, those are 2 good things to look into. Certainly circumstances I think we have, at least in the recent past, have not run into. And certainly a few things we can look into. I think there's some challenges on both sides. I think Dino mentioned one to me earlier this week, which I hadn't thought about, which is you could have a president who their term expires and they're not coming back on the board. So even in that case, I don't know what happens between their final meeting, or I guess their term is till the end of the calendar year. So
Yeah.
let's what we'll do is let's put this, Steve, that's probably a good thing for personnel at one of our next committee meetings. Maybe we could just look at that from a policy perspective and just have our attorneys take a look at it and see if there's anything we need to do. I know the good news is, Don, there was no action to be taken from a board perspective, nothing voted on or anything like that. So that's the big thing for the president and leadership. But good point. We can certainly look into it.
Mr. Anderson, we do have a policy that states that we can postpone the organization meeting up to 3 days. So we do already have a policy in place. So, but again, we can also revisit Mr. Cass' recommendations.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, if I may, I just have a quick reminder about the committees. Since we're going to be redoing the committees, and I'm assuming if you're going to recharge the security committee, I know in previous years that's kind of slipped through the cracks just because it's something we have to recharge. We have to basically read the whole thing in at one of our next meetings. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the radar.
Thank you. Yep, it will be. And I think there's actually a meeting coming up in January, correct, Dr. Forte?
We have a security meeting scheduled.
Okay.
For Damaris and I, we would appreciate it if you can get the finance committee going sooner than later, like within the next, if not next week, the week after, so we can get started on the budget for 22-23.
Yep. Yeah. Steve, my plan is to get the committees finalized by early next week. That way we can kind of get rolling on it. So if I'll send over the committee list and the liaison list tonight to the board members. And if you can get back to me by the end of the weekend at the latest, preferably by Friday, if possible, even tomorrow, just so I can get this finalized. I think, Dr. Forte brings up a good point. There's a lot of, between security that we've got a meeting this month and finance, we're in the middle of budget cycle. There's a lot of things going on. So we want to get this set up as soon as possible. Any other good of the cause discussion items? Okay. If not, we'll move on with our agenda to our open public comment section number 2. I'll quickly read the introduction again, just for those of you who may have joined since. This is for our second open public comment section, so it'll be for anything germane to the district. The purpose of bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings, is to recognize the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the participant must preface comments by an announcement of their name and place of residence. Statements made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration, and no participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements, questions, or inquiries shall be directed to the board president. With that, I'll open up our second open public comment section at 8:02. If you'd like to be heard, you can either use the raise hand function, or you can type in the chat your name, and I will call on you and you can unmute yourself. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Mrs. De Silva, if you, I see you raise your hand, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself and give your name and residence, and then ask your question or comment.
Allison De Silva, 12 Morris Avenue. In the last Board of Ed meeting, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
In the last Board of Ed meeting, it was mentioned that there was going to be a Valley View advisory with a social justice group coming down from the high school to talk to the students. I was wondering if this has been decided to go forward, if you were going to inform the parents, have a permission slip, because I don't feel it is correct to have minors talking to minors. It's very complicated. You don't know what children are going to say out of the mouths of the presenters or of the attendees.
Thank you, Mrs. De Silva. I appreciate your question and comment. Dr. Cullis, Dr. Forte, are you guys prepared for that question? Or
Sure, we have not finalized anything at this point. So more information will be coming. Again, we have a few parent academic committee meetings coming up, and certainly we'll be able to inform parents before we participate in anything with the high school. But there was a question that came up at the last board meeting, and so I just mentioned that yes, we had contacted that group and that we would be trying to coordinate with their advisors, their adult advisors at this point. But nothing is decided yet, and we will be informing the community before anything is done.
Thank you.
All right, I had a question, a follow-up question on that. Are the adult advisors going to be with the students when they come to Valley View, or when the Valley View students go up to the high school?
It would be at Valley View, and yes, there will be adults present with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis, and thank you, Mrs. De Silva, for your question. Next in the queue, I see Emmett Cohen. If you'd like to be heard, you can unmute yourself, state your name and address, and then ask your question or make your comment.
Hi, so this is actually Marietta Cohen. I'm on my son's laptop. Let me just make sure I'm unmuted. So I'm Marietta Cohen to Van Dorn Place. Welcome to the new board members. Recently, the New Jersey Department of Health released recommendations for COVID-19 screening testing in schools, along with recommendations suggesting the exclusion of students and staff not vaccinated for COVID-19 in red zones specifically. I urge you to seriously consider the discriminatory behavior this policy involves. The 3 minutes I am allotted does not begin to cover the major red flags of these recommendations. Regarding the testing of healthy children who already adhere to strict masking and distancing in a district where there has reportedly never been a case of in-school transmission will cause more harm than good. In addition, implementing the test to stay policy would further restrict our children from participating in extracurricular activities. The benefits far outweigh the risks, and we need to stop inviting stronger restrictions and start putting the mental and psychological health of our kids first. What is the plan for getting our kids back in the classrooms? What are we doing wrong when other local districts are in person? Do you need to change the unrealistic and unnecessary quarantine rules? The CDC loosened its restrictions, yet the New Jersey Department of Health has increased its restrictions. This is no longer a sustainable option for many working families in the district. What advice do you have for us? Let's ease up on the mask obsession and policing and start focusing on getting our kids caught up. Lastly, what is the board's stance on the possible discontinuance of the current executive order requiring masks in school? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cohen, for your questions and comments. I appreciate it. Dr. Forte, did you have anything you wanted to immediately respond to with those questions and comments, or should we can get back later too if you're not comfortable?
Well, a couple things. One is we haven't decided anything about the test to stay policy. We have not adopted any new guidelines. As you know, our problem this week was we had too many staff members out due to COVID, and we really weren't able to run the schools. So that's why we switched to virtual. I can't really comment on other districts. I do know that there's at least 100 districts now that have had to go to virtual. Now we're hopefully, we're working on getting back. So our plan is obviously we always want our kids back in school. And that's all I have on this at this time.
I would add one comment just from experience, both that I've heard second and third hand, as well as experience I have firsthand from a family member who works in another district. One of the challenges when there's difficulties with the number of staff, and we've had this challenge all school year. I think we've actually mentioned it a few times at board meetings with the difficulty with, staff members and staffing, no different, probably similar to what you see in the outside education realm. But one of the difficulties is that I've heard multiple districts, including one, once again, that a family member works in, that they are putting multiple classrooms in gyms or in media centers with one sub for 3, 4, 5 classes. So I know that, once again, don't know, that could we open and have that? Sure. I don't know from an educational standpoint. One of the important things, and Dr. Forte, without giving direct any details, can you just speak to how many of our, or not how many, but just in general, some of our staff members that may be unable to come in person and what they've been doing virtually?
So that's a big part. So we had 47 staff members who were not able to come to work, but out of the 47, a high number were able to work virtually due to the fact that they were either not too sick where they could work. There was still a few that were too sick to work, but for the most part, most of our staff members could work virtually. Now, obviously, people like bus drivers can't work virtually. You know, if we don't have enough bus drivers to man the buses we have, that's going to be a problem getting kids to school. So we had a bunch of problems. We're working on them, but the good news was we were able to have most of our staff who were not able to come into the buildings due to COVID were able to work virtually.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. And Mrs. Cohen, we can follow up on a few of those other questions and comments you had. I can certainly myself or Dr. Forte will follow up with you. Any other questions, Steve? I know you've got those 2 emails there. Any other questions? If anybody has anything else, you can either use the raise hand function once again, or you can put your name in the chat feature. We got one more here. Olivia Cariello, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Go ahead and unmute yourself and you can make your comment.
Hi, so I'm Olivia Carrera, 7 Longview Trail East in here in town. And so, you know, given what was just shared, I was just curious, you know, there's been a nationwide sub shortage for quite some time. And I'm just wondering what measures the district takes to ensure adequate coverage going forward. And so
You're not coming across very clear. I can't really hear you. You might have to start over again from the beginning.
can you hear me now? Does that work?
Yeah, just sit closer to your microphone a little bit and you'll be all set.
Okay, apologies about that. So I'm just saying that given that there's a nationwide sub shortage and kind of has been for a while, I'm just wondering what measures the district either has taken or intends to take to ensure adequate coverage going forward. I'm just wondering along the lines of permanent in-building subs, or if there's a system where teachers cover for each other.
That's a very good question. I appreciate it. Dr. Forte, did you want to answer that?
Sure. From the beginning of COVID, when we were able to get back into schools, the district hired permanent subs, meaning people who come to school every day. We have 8 of them now in the district. Throughout the district, they get paid more than the typical sub rate. The rate for the permanent subs is $210 a day. They do qualify for benefits and they qualify for sick days and personal days too. So we do have cases where we could have a sub, then another sub for a sub because the sub's out. We don't have a lot of daily subs, meaning people who come that aren't a permanent sub. We're having a hard time getting more of them. But we have recently hired a few, and we do cover within too. So we do a lot of that where we have our own teachers covering other classes throughout the day. And the permanent subs made a big difference for us because we do have at least some people there to cover the classes.
Thank you, Dr. Forte, and thank you for the question. Once again, if anybody has any questions, you can use the raise hand feature or you can put your name in the chat. In the meantime, while we're waiting for some others, I just wanted to make a quick comment on something Dr. Forte mentioned just a few minutes ago. We have staff members that are sick with COVID that are virtually teaching. I have such admiration for our staff that are there for our students, even in times when they're personally ill or struggling, and many of them have their own kids at home, maybe virtually, and there's a lot of struggles going on right now, and our staff have just been unbelievable. And I just wanted to publicly thank them and publicly thank our administration for finding ways to make sure that we get what's best for our students. I know we do believe getting the kids back in the schools is what's best for our students. We've said that from day one of COVID. However, getting them back in a suboptimal environment where we don't have enough staff obviously became a challenge this week. So it's looking better moving forward, and we're hopeful that we'll get these kids back in the schools. I don't see anybody else with a raised hand. In the meantime, Dr. Forte, would you want to read those 2 comments you got on email?
So the first one that came in is for Dr. Cullis. She has the question. She'll read it and give
Oh, I
an
don't
answer.
have it.
The one we talked about before.
I know, but I didn't get the entire thing. Do you have it in front of you? I didn't. I wrote down my note.
I'll forward it to you.
Well, I mean, I have it, but it will just take a moment. Do you want to do the other one first then?
Sure.
Okay, I'll pull it up. I didn't know I was reading the whole thing.
I also put it into our shared doc we have. Okay, this one's from Donna Szynski, 64 Pure Place. Everybody hear me? Mike, you hear me? Okay. Happy New Year to all of you. Congratulations to the newly elected board members. Is there a way we can access the parent interest survey without using a Google account? I would like to read the survey. Will testing be required for students vaccinated and unvaccinated? If there is segregation, why? Why are vaccinated students being privileged, although they can still get and spread COVID? You are supposed to uphold the Constitution of New Jersey, as well as the United States. This is discrimination, period, and against the SEL you wish to teach. Are you going to start to recognize natural immunity? It does not make common sense to test healthy children, especially after they have natural immunity. It seems many are suffering from mass psychosis. Can we please start making common sense and using real scientific data? 2 years ago, no one would have dreamed of testing a child for the flu simply because they were in close contact with somebody who had it. You would definitely not have tested a child who already had the flu that year. Please advise. Many people are confused by this. Please don't tell us you're following the BOH. They are simply recommendations. The parents are the ones who should be making these decisions. Thank you. So here's one easy one I can do. If you don't have a Google account, you should be able to do it because it's open up to anybody with the internet. But basically, I'll read you the questions on there. So the first part is to identify what grade your student is in: preschool, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. I would be interested in a workshop on building resiliency, anxiety, managing emotions such as disappointment and frustration, friendship skills and resolving conflicts, setting limits and expectations, other. I would prefer the workshops be held during the school day or in the evening. Please indicate below any other subjects or social emotional areas you would like us to address. And the rest of it, I pretty much answered it before. We haven't made any decisions on testing or any of the other stuff as of yet. Sandy, do you have the email now?
No.
It's in the...
I'm in the folder. Let's see it.
Dr. Cullis, I just forwarded that to your email if you have your email available.
I have it. Sorry. Okay. Go back and forth between it. Like this is from Nancy Fagan, 288 Morris Ave, Denville, New Jersey. First, I would like to express my gratitude to all the teachers that have worked very hard with my children, both in Riverview and Valley View. I truly hope the district provides you with the support you need to help your students this year recover from the last two. Since I can get up to the minute COVID numbers for Morris County and Denville on the Denville Emergency Facebook page faster than the district test results, I would like to know when will the district provide a presentation on the Start Strong testing results for our schools. Additionally, how many academic focused presentations will be provided this year based on the findings of these results? According to the state, the results are horrendous due to the overreach of state mandates and district lockdowns. I would like to know when you will be providing educators and students with additional help to increase these scores. What does Start Strong support may be needed mean to the Board of Education? How will Denville District facilitate additional support to the students, free tutoring perhaps? Personally, I have a child in the district that scores expressed strong support may be needed. When will they be receiving the support? I hope they will not be leaving this year with any academic failure. How will you be supporting the lower levels, K-3, both educators and students that have not been tested, but clearly are behind in academic benchmarks? Many parents are in the same situation as I am and would like answers. Thank you for your time. Okay. Well, there's quite a few questions there, but I can start by, I know that I have communicated in the past with Mrs. Fagan that I will be doing that presentation on January 24th. I know we've mentioned it multiple times because it kept getting changed based on the time that the data was going to be released. So January 24th is the Start Strong presentation. I would like to mention though, this is not the same as the NJSLA. So I don't want anyone thinking that this is somehow a completely thorough testing of what they do for the entire school year. This is a readiness assessment. It consists of 20 to 25 questions, as opposed to our NJSLA that has multiple tests on each standard, so that we have not just one question for the entire year in math on fractions, something like that. So it really is a readiness test. Now, we were already in a good place because we have purchased a contract with Linkit, and we already do our own readiness. Actually, for the last few years, we've done readiness tests at the beginning of the year. So we have that information before even Start Strong existed. Start Strong will always be available. It's optional for districts. The only reason that we were required to do it this year was there was a waiver so that we, from last year's NJSLA, because we did not take the NJSLA, we had to do this readiness assessment. So this was an additional assessment that we did. So I will get to go through all of that data, but really it is one piece of data, and we collect a lot of information on students, both in the academic realm as well as the social emotional realm. So we would not be looking at just that one piece that it says strong support may be needed. We would look at multiple things. Is this accurate? I know I've pulled up ones that said strong support needed, and those students have straight A's. So it's hard to rely on we would never rely on just one piece of data, especially when it's like only 20, like I said, 20 or more questions. And there's so many ways. What could have happened in that one test on that one day? It's, did they complete the test? I've seen tests where the students only completed a few of the questions, some skipped questions. There were a variety of things. Maybe they do need support, but we would know that with a variety of measures. So we look at our own benchmarks, our own readiness tests, our teacher recommendations, and they go through a tiered system of support. So we have had in place for a few years now a set system on how to provide supports. So we would not get one piece of data and put in supports unless we saw that there were really supports that were needed. And the supports can range from in the classroom support of giving the teacher strategies, extra help in the classroom, small group instruction, all the way up to pull out all day programs. So it really depends. We do go through the tiered system support and the CST, our child study team, to determine the level of support for students. Like I said, we have so many out there. We have the therapies, whether it's speech, occupational, physical therapy. We have basic skills pull out. We have basic skills push in. We have resource room pull out. We've Orton Gillingham. Just so many different supports available, including tutoring. So students that have been recommended for the need for tutoring, we have been providing that for the entire time that we have been in this pandemic. So if your student would be receiving that level of support, you would parents would be involved in that collaboration. You would be contacted, you would be at meetings and discussing it at parent conferences as well as TSS meetings. So those things are available. If you feel that you would like, you're concerned that maybe your student is not doing well, both on that assessment as well as in their grades, then contact your principal and we certainly will look at providing additional supports. But I certainly do not want parents to get alarmed if they receive something that said strong supports needed and they know their child has straight A's. I mean, that it doesn't seem to match. So please look at all of the data, but if you want to talk about it and say, well, what does the teacher think? Contact your teacher. If you want to know what I think when I look at all the data, you can contact me or the principals. Any of us will answer that and give you a clear picture on everything, like the big picture on this, on that. I think I answered those questions. We are going to be having some presentations. Like I said, the Parent Academy starts meeting, and we're going off of past surveys and our last strategic plan on the types of offerings that we do as far as parent presentations. So that's how we select our topics. We do surveys and we went through the strategic plan. We have run many. I wish our academic ones were more attended. I would offer them every week, but unfortunately we don't get a lot of attendance up if we have like a reading workshop or math, how to help your child with math. We just don't get the participation. When we have ones that are more with social issues or emotional needs for our students, like our suicide prevention, things like that, we get a lot more, or the cell phones, how to help your students with digital literacy and digital safety. Those we get a lot more attendance. So we do look at how many we can offer each year, how many people are interested in those, and then we offer them. I do offer virtual ones as well. So the list will be coming out soon, and you can see which ones we'll be offering for this spring.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis.
Right.
And I know
that was a lot.
I look forward to your presentation at the end of the month because I know you're very careful and very thoughtful when you look at the data to really understand where there's opportunities to try to help our students and then implement programs to support them. So I really look forward to it. We know this is an area, or this is an area that, you've been working on, an area that we need to continue to look at. So from a board perspective, I look forward to it. And just to clarify, I know we've provided tutors prior to kind of even the COVID stuff, right? We've provided those at needed times in different places. I know since COVID, we've done them. For people you mentioned, if you're concerned about something, just keep me honest here. First line of defense is always go to your student's teacher to ask for support and help. Secondarily, if they're in the special ed department, they've obviously got a case manager. If not, they can certainly go to the principal at the school. And then finally, if they're still not having luck going through that, they can obviously reach out to yourself. Is that the correct order at which they should be reaching out?
Yes, that's exactly it. And prior to the pandemic, we offered small groups instruction after school and even at certain locations in town. The one-on-one tutoring took place because we had to be virtual. So that started there, unless the student had a home instruction or some special case where they were sick for some time. Then we've always had home instruction and tutoring available for kids that really needed that help.
Thank you. And I think that answers, there's a question in chat from the Samuel family. If it doesn't, please just put your name in the chat and I can call on you and you can unmute yourself and ask a follow-up question. Next in the queue, we have MLZ that's the name on the chat here, that you can unmute yourself, whoever that is, and state your name and address for the record and ask your question or make your comment. MLZ is the name on it. If that is you, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, how are you? Michelle Zimmerman, 34 Shawnee Trail. How are you?
Good, Michelle. Thank
Hello.
you.
Dr. Collis, I have a question with regards to you in regards to tutoring. We had an email, the last conversation was December 16th, that we agreed upon letting my daughter get tutoring. Thank you for letting me know. I will make arrangements and a tutoring will contact you to set up a convenient time.
Yes.
It's now January 6th. I still haven't heard from anybody. I didn't know how long that took before my daughter has to fall even further behind before she enters high school next year. Thank you.
The tutoring started after they were to be starting after the winter break. So I know we contacted during December 16th and you had specific areas and I will talk with you specifically that yes, tutors have all been set up and they will be contacting you. So
Okay,
it was
great.
this week. I know that many of them did reach out right before break. Some did not, but it was not ever planned to start until after the winter break, which is this week.
Okay, good to know now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerman. And I've got one more question in the chat here from Kevin Barecki. My question deals with if we need to maintain virtual schooling, would it be possible to provide as much advance notice to parents as possible? Knowing that we would be virtual for an entire week ahead of time certainly makes scheduling much easier than learning one day at a time. Thank you to all the teachers and staff for their efforts during these difficult times. Apologize that my camera and microphone are not working tonight, and sorry. No problem, sir. And Dr. Forte, do you want to just talk about kind of the process as to kind of how that decision is made and the timelines?
Yes. So it's a pretty long process. We talk about it amongst ourselves with the administrative team, see how we're looking for staffing wise. After that, we have to go to the Department of Health and discuss it with them. And then after Department of Health, we go to the Department of Education to discuss it with them. Once everything's been cleared and decided, then within an hour, the information goes out to the public. We're definitely sensitive to the fact that getting as much notice as possible it would be important for everyone. But it's also sometimes hard to make a decision too far in advance because things change. So, like, for example, we're hoping to make the decision for Monday tomorrow, but it is possible that decision might have to be made over the weekend due to the things that are changing, right? Like we have a bunch of staff members that are waiting for test results and things like that. So I guess the real answer is we'll do the best we can of putting out the information as fast as we possibly can. But I think maybe the part that might help you a little bit is by the time the decision's made and already approved and gone through all that process, you find out within an hour from that time.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. And I know I had conversations with Dr. Forte over the break between Christmas and New Year's, as well as this week, just to, I want to emphasize to the public, the best thing that everybody can do to help us make a decision earlier is communicate. So if you have a student at home, or if we have staff that are listening to this, if you're positive, even if you're virtual and you think you're going to be cleared, there's been a few comments already. The CDC has one set of guidelines which changed last week. The New Jersey Department of Health has another set of guidelines. We went into the red, which changed some of those guidelines. We had to wait for the Department of Health to give some guidelines. If we get to 2 weeks in the red, the Department of Health is supposed to provide more guidelines or guidance, which we haven't gotten at this point. So a lot of moving parts, but I understand where parents are coming from because I'm in the same boat, and I had the same conversations with Dr. Forte to try to get it out as soon as possible. And I am confident, knowing all the moving parts, that it is getting out as soon as humanly possible. I think at a minimum, they're trying to do everything they can to get it out. One of the things, just to kind of clarify, that happened that caused us to kind of make a later decision. I know it was a 2-hour delay, a closure on Monday, and then obviously the notice for virtual. One of the things we really wanted to do is in addition to our teaching staff, our nursing staff has been burning the candle from both ends for a long, long time. And Dr. Forte really wanted to give them a week off. I mean, I don't think they've had literally a week off in 2 years. So we really tried to give them that week off to enjoy time with their families, or just some downtime. So that may have, caused us to be a little bit delayed, but I appreciate the fact that he did that, because it's important for our staff to kind of recharge a little bit. And I appreciate everything they did. They have to, when that phone call comes in, they do a full contact tracing. They're not handing that off to the health department to do it. Our staff are doing the contact tracing to try to find out how many other staff or students might be affected, and when should they be allowed to come back into the school. And that's not always a quick and easy decision. There's a lot of questions that need to be asked about that particular scenario. So it does take a little bit of time, but appreciate the fact that hopefully we can get it out as soon as possible. I don't see any other hands raised. I don't see any other names or questions in the comment section. Dr. Forte, just to confirm, are there any other emails in the queue?
No more emails.
Okay. With that being said, I am going to close our second public comment section at 8:36 p.m. At this point, we have an opportunity on our agenda for board comments. If there's anybody from the board that would like to make a comment, go ahead and unmute yourself and make the comment.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson. It's Laura. I just wanted to add to the comments about the getting the notification out to the public. I think that Dr. Forte, Dr. Cullis, and the entire administrative team and staff have been very matter of fact that the best place for students is in the classroom, and that's where they do their best learning. I think that if they were to say, we're just going to go virtual for 2 weeks, that would be the easier decision. And they would be able to give that advance notification. But because they are true believers that the students learn best in the classroom, they're doing everything they can possible to make that a reality. And unfortunately, because of the logistics and everything that Dr. Forte and Mike just went through, that's not always possible. But Mr. Anderson, myself, other members of the board have had multiple conversations with Dr. Forte regularly about this, and notification to the public is certainly a priority for the administrative team as well as the board. So I just wanted to add that information in there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. Any other board comments?
Yeah, Mr. Anderson, if you don't mind, I'd like to welcome the 2 new board members. Congratulations and welcome. Wanted to thank Mrs. Wagner for her 2 years of being the board president, as well as, and congratulations to both you and to Dino. Dino for another year being vice president, and congratulations to another term for board president. So best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. And I apologize, I was remiss in not thanking Mrs. Wagner. She may have had the most difficult 2-year span of presidency on this Board of Education. I don't think anybody had a pandemic in their vocabulary when you started this presidency. So I thank you for everything you did in your leadership for the past 2 years.
Yeah, Mike, if I can just tag off of that, being the vice president for the last 2 years with Mrs. Wagner, I got to see up close and personal. She has an incredibly steadfast, level way of managing and working with people, which has been tremendous during this entire pandemic in the last 2 years. It's been an honor to work with her, and it's been a pleasure. So I want to say thank you to her again as well.
Well, thank you guys. And I just wanted to say that it was certainly not an easy 2 years for our entire district and our administrative team, but I think the board works very well together. So, and also welcome to our 2 new members. I hope that you 2 feel welcomed, and please reach out to any of us with any questions that you might have. We're certainly here to help you through. The first year is a lot, and in the midst of a pandemic is certainly a lot. So you have our numbers. Please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
I think you're our first two board members we've ever inducted virtually, right, Damaris?
For sure.
That is correct, yes.
Seems like it's getting to be the
This is the
routine.
first time.
Any other board comments? All right, seeing none, we can move on with our agenda. Damaris, just to clarify kind of our process here, we still have our regular agenda coming up. Are we going to break for executive session and then come back for a regular meeting?
That is correct, Dr. Forte, right?
No, we don't need to do that. We're not going to be voting on anything. So after this next meeting, we'll just go into an executive for a couple minutes. I sent you all the conference call info, and I backed those numbers again. So I fixed it. So make sure you look at I know the 3 and the 9, I keep switching them up, but so it's accurate now. So if you look at it, when it's time to go, that's where it is.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson, we will have to adjourn this meeting and reopen the regular work session.
Yep. And just to clarify, we're going to stay on this Google Meet, correct? Right. So so just to clarify for everybody, as we adjourn this meeting, we have another meeting. That was our reorganization meeting for the year. And now we'll jump into our regularly scheduled work session and regular session meeting. So with that,
I motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Thank you, Mr. Capello. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None. Any abstentions? None. Okay, we are adjourned as of 8:42 on this agenda, and we will immediately go into our next agenda. Okay, Damaris, do I need to read the introduction here for this? Should I? Okay.
Yes, sure. It's a brand new.
Sounds good. So this is our agenda for our Denville Board of Education meeting, January 6th, work/regular session meeting. Members of the public may remotely access and provide written or verbal public comments at this board meeting through Hangouts Meet, a remote video conferencing system. Specific instructions for accessing the board meeting and providing public comments will be posted to the homepage of the Denville Board of Education's website. All public written or verbal comments must be included with the sender's full name and address and will be read aloud at the board meeting. Please visit the district website for more information, www.denville.org. Free direct access is available by copying and pasting the URL or telephone, and the link and phone number are listed on the agenda. The meeting line will open at 7:30 p.m. Callers will be placed in a queue, and calls will be answered in the order which they are received once public comments begin. For questions in reference to this meeting, for technical assistance and/or to report difficulty with accessing the virtual meeting, please email sforte, that's SFORTE @denville.org, and/or ccostanza, CCOSTANZA @denville.org. Please note the following in the portion of the email: virtual meeting assistance requested emails will be checked during the public meeting as well. Google Meet Hangout direction for the public. Number 1, when you enter the meeting Hangout, mute yourself if you are not already muted. Number 2, during the open public comment section of the meeting, please contribute by either A, typing your question or comment in the text box, B, by unmuting and asking the question or comment, C, stating your name and address for the record. And I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and/or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and in each of the school buildings within the district. Roll call, please.
Dr. Aruna Tassin?
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Kim,
Here.
Mr. Cass,
Here.
Mr. Capello, Mr. Anderson,
Here.
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 Mrs. Wagner.
Okay, looking at our agenda, we do not have a need for executive session. So we are going to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And moving on to our agenda, special presentations. As we discussed at our last meeting on January 24th, Dr. Cullis will be presenting the district test scores from 2021. That is in reference to the standardized or assessment tests that were just recently brought up. So we'll move on to superintendent's comments. Dr. Forte.
Okay. Update on the projects. The Lakeview roof, the punch list is almost complete. They just need one warmer day to complete something that needs a warmer day. Riverview HVAC, the gym did reopen, and they're working on the installation of the ducts, insulation of the ductwork, as well as the new fire alarms that are needed for the ductwork. District-wide, our COVID cases, it's posted on the website. Right now, we have, as of today, we have 12 new cases district-wide, and we have 132 cases district-wide altogether, and 234 people being quarantined. We have our region is now fully in the red. The entire state is fully in the red, which is called the very high case rate, and that was for 2 weeks in a row. We're not sure what that means yet from the Department of Health, because the guidance now is that there will be further guidance to follow once you move into the red determination. But we have not received any guidance from the Department of Education yet. We did bring in a few special ed classes today, which was great for the ABA program. We had 2 classrooms with about 12 kids total in for a 4-hour day. These are the kids in the ABA autistic program at Riverview, and they will be operating on a delayed opening for tomorrow. And we expect to we will put out an update on the status of the schools tomorrow. And that's it for my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. Dr. Cullis, any assistant superintendent's comments?
Just one. Kindergarten registration for 22-23 is opening up on February 1st. So it will be on the Denville website, and you'll be able to access the link to pre-register your future kindergartner. That's it. This concludes the assistant superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Dr. Cullis. Mrs. Gorowski, any business administrator comments?
Just 2. I would like to remind everyone that if you have not pre-registered your student for the COVID test with the district, I would like you to do so as soon as possible. The deadline is tomorrow, Friday, January 7th. That is, if you would like your student to be tested, not just next week, but in the future, they need to be pre-registered with the company. If they are not pre-registered, they will not be able to test. And we have opened, this is the second time we had opened the registration. And again, we do have a deadline for tomorrow by 4 p.m. The next comment is the 2 new board members. Congratulations again. You'll be receiving an email from me either this week or next week in reference to New Jersey School Board training as for new board members. So look out for those emails. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gorowski. We will move on to our agenda to open public discussion for agenda items only. The purpose of bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings, is to recognize the value of public comments on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the participant must preface comments by an announcement of their name and place of residence. Statements made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration, and no participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements, questions, and inquiries shall be directed to the board president. Once again, this open public comment section will be for agenda items only. We will have a second open public comment section, which will be for any subjects or any items germane to the district. I'm going to open our first public comment section at 8:50 p.m. Once again, if you'd like to make a comment, you can either use the raise hand feature or you can type your name and address in the text box and I will call on you. We'll wait a minute to see if there's anything in the queue. Donna Szynski. Donna, if you can unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, and then make your comment or question.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Donna Szynski, 64 Pure Place. Congratulations to the newly elected members. My question last time was actually for this session. I apologize. I didn't realize it was 2 meetings. I read the agenda. So how are we able to access that interest survey without using a Google account? I could not log in, and I'd really like to review the survey. And when the new members were sworn in, they were sworn in to uphold the New Jersey Constitution, and a lot of our rights are being violated. And also that I guess it's just for the board members. I don't know if it's for Dr. Cullis and Dr. Forte also, that new, what is it? Basically I think it's for the board members, where you guys aren't supposed to be dealing with radical political groups. It sounds like we are. So if you could just let me know about that survey.
Thank you, Mrs. Szynski, for your comments. And what we could do is I will have Dr. Forte or someone from the administration or technology department get in touch with you to ensure you can access that survey.
Okay. I just think it should be accessible for every parent, and like a Google Doc really isn't appropriate because I couldn't even get on there.
So it's going to be the text of the full survey will be in the agenda rather than having a link for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Once again, if anybody else has questions, you can either use the raise hand feature or you can type your name and address in the chat feature and we will call on you. Dr. Forte, just while we're waiting, just to clarify, no other emails have come into the queue? I think you're muted. Did you say no?
No, there's no more. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. And we'll just wait one more minute to make sure there's no others that wish to be to ask a question or make a comment. Okay, seeing no other hands raised or any comments in the chat feature, I'm going to close our first open public comment section at 8:54 p.m. and we'll move on to our agenda. Mrs. Wagner, if you wouldn't mind moving us through old business, no action to be taken.
Sure, no problem. At our next meeting, myself or a fellow board member will move to approve A, B, and C under old business. It's school monies report, board secretary report for December of 2021, as well as education reports for December 2021 and HIB cases as listed, as well as the minutes from regular and executive session meeting December 13th.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. Any questions on the items under old business? Okay. Moving on to new business, personnel. This is action to be taken. Mr. Capello, would you mind moving us through the personnel section?
I would be happy to. Under personnel, if there are no objections, I would like to move items 1 through 4. These are resignations, new hires, and a few other personnel issues, as well as approving some leaves of absence for various reasons.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Capello and Mr. Cass. Any questions under personnel before we have roll call? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Arunathasan,
Aye.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to instruction and program. Let's see, Mr. Cass, would you mind moving us through instruction and program?
I'll be glad to. Under instruction and program, item number 1 for approval is to approve the following professional development workshops with expenses for staff members and our board members. And we have 2 people listed there, Cindy Costanza and Alexa Angster. And item number 2 is that the board approve Disha Patel to complete the Montclair Education Administrator internship at Valley View Middle School during the 21-22 school year.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass and Mrs. Wagner. Any questions under instruction and program? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Arunathasan,
Aye.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Wagner.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Finance, Mr. Kim, would you mind moving us through finance, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Under section C, finance, I move that we approve tonight numbers 1 and 2. Number 1 being to award Cornerstone Technology, who was the highest bidder for 632 used Chromebooks for the amount of $11,060. And number 2, to retroactively approve to rent a 24 passenger school bus from Learner Limited for a monthly cost of $1,000, effective December 1st of 2021.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim and Mr. Cass. Any questions on finance?
Not a question, but just a suggestion under number 1, if we could just add the word of between mix and models, just to make it grammatically correct.
Mr. Cass, Mr. Kim, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good to go.
We should really thank Little Learner too, Scott Lerner. He's really helped us a lot with the busing, allowing us to use his bus and now renting it to us for a while. He also fills in on last minute notice as a sub bus driver for us. And considering we had to go virtual, he opened up his place for a few kids in town that needed somewhere to go for the 2 days. So he's a great partner we have. I just wanted to throw a shout out to him.
I'm glad you did. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
Steve,
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
and Steve, I'm sorry, Mike. And Steve, that bears repeating that $1,000 by no means covers the amount of times he's basically let us use his buses for free. So I just want to make sure the public's really aware of that.
Yeah, we're using it every day now. and one of our buses broke down. The buses are delayed getting back. We've ordered it, but we don't have it. The parts you can't get. So you just all the different things working together, and here he is offering up his bus that really came in handy for us. He's really been amazing throughout the pandemic too, helping families that might need coverage for their students when they're virtual.
I agree with Mr. Capello. The cost that he's charging us is way less than what other companies would have charged us just to rent their vehicles. I looked into 2 other companies, and the price was a lot more than $1,000. So thank you to Mr. Scott Lerner.
Do we, I echo the thanks. Do we notify the parents of the district in case they do need coverage? Like, is there a streamlined way for them to reach out to Lerner to have their child be at their facility if they need coverage? Or
he was only able to offer about 5 spots, and people had reached out asking for it, so we turned those people on to Mr. Lerner. But the YMCA was able to take 10, and the YMCA sent out an email directly to the people that they work with already. They couldn't take people who weren't already registered for Kids Club, so they were sending an email to them as well. Both places are having a hard time with staffing, just like us. They were doing us a favor and just trying to take a couple kids if they were needed.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Aruna Jitesan?
Yes.
Dr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Kim?
Yes.
Mr. Cass?
Yes.
Mr. Capello?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson? Mrs. Wagner?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Next, moving on to new business, no action to be taken. Mr. Capello, can you move us through personnel, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I or someone else from the board at the next meeting will be moving items under personnel 1 through 4. These include new hires, resignations, retirements, employee leaves, extra pay. Also, for us to approve the parent survey created by Lakeview School Counselors. We'll also be approving a couple of leaves of absences for various purposes, and potentially hiring new substitutes. Just for the new board members' information, this section, because we're not voting on it tonight, will be filled in between now and the regular session. So sometimes you'll see items here and sometimes you won't, but those items will be populated over the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Capello. Any questions under new business, no action to be taken personnel? All right, seeing none, moving on to instruction and program. Mr. Cass, well, actually, we don't really have anything under instruction and program yet. Obviously, I'm assuming we'll have some added in there, so we'll skip over instruction and program, move on to policy revisions. Mr. Cass, would you mind moving us through? No action to be taken here, but just walk us through policy revisions at our next meeting.
Sure. At the next meeting, we'll be reviewing for approval a number of policies. P8600, student transportation, will be for a first reading. And then there are majority of the policies for approval will be for second reading and adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Cass. Any questions, comments?
Looks like we'll be abolishing 4 policies as well near the bottom, right?
That's correct. Any other questions or comments about policy? All right, seeing none, moving on to finance. Mr. Kim, can you walk us through the finance?
Sure. Either myself or someone else will be motioning to approve the Section D finance. The first one is typically the list of checks. The second one will be to appoint French and Perrell Associates to provide electrical engineering services for the Lakeview electrical service upgrade for $24,300. And then the contract for Susan, number 3, the contract for Susan Marinello for communications consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Any questions, comments under finance?
Yeah, good. We get some detail on the communications consultation. I think, I recall talking about something about that, improving the fine-tuning some of our telecommunications for meetings and everything. But a little detail on that I think would be helpful.
Sure, Dr. Forte, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll make sure that you all have a description of what actually will be done for that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Forte. Any other questions under finance? All right, final section. Mr. Cass, would you mind walking us through operations for our next meeting?
All right, the next meeting, if there's something on the transportation, I'll bring that before the board for approval. Under building and grounds, we're already thinking summer here. We have approval of the New York Yankees camp at Riverview. That's something that's been ongoing for a few years. Pro Sports Excellent Football Experience Football Camp at Riverview. And then we have the Denville Rec Department Summer Camp, location TBA. The Denville Schools Extended School Year Program, location TBA. And the Denville Schools Enrichment Program, location TBA.
Thank you, Mr. Cass. Any questions, comments under operations? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our agenda. Next item is good to the cause, committee reports, correspondence, discussion items. We'll start off with talking about board meeting highlights. Any feedback on highlights?
I'd say our 2 new board members certainly warrant a highlight.
As well as our new board president and vice president.
Old faces.
And how about an appreciation to Little Learner for their assistance?
And Steve, this is our last meeting before Dr. Cullis's presentation. Is that correct?
Dr. Cullis's presentation on the test scores?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming up too. I could put that in there as well.
Yeah, I'd put that in there just as a kind of a highlight almost for our next meeting. I think that'll be good. I think that covers it. Anybody have anything else under highlights?
I'm going to have to really put together a dance routine and fireworks for this presentation. And high expectations for this in September.
Yeah, a lot of build up.
I can live up to everyone's expectations.
You never disappoint, Dr. Cullis. It's okay.
I do have a question, if it's all right, Mr. Anderson. Do we have any updates with regard to the demographic study? I knew it was supposed to be around the holidays, so just wanted to see if there's any updates.
I did get something very recently from him. I haven't had a chance to review it. I believe it's only it was just an update on the new building that's being proposed and started in town. I'll make sure I give it to you guys, but I haven't had a chance to review what he sent.
And he's going to present to the board the result of his findings as well, right? Okay. Thank you.
Any other, for the good of the cause or anything other, any other comments that the board has or questions?
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
It's Laura. It might just be a good time to review with public what we've done in the past and what I'm assuming we continue to plan to do in the future as far as virtual board meetings and, when they are virtual and when they are not.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. So, and keep me honest here, both Laura and Steve. So the reason why we rescheduled this from an in-person meeting, which we've been in person for the recent past here, to virtual is because our schools were virtual. In fact, our schools were closed on Monday and were already announced to be going virtual. So anytime our schools are virtual, we will transition our meetings to a virtual format. Anytime our schools are in person, we will have a in-person meeting, which also typically has a live broadcast feature to it also, but not the similar interaction as we have here, more just one-way viewing. We do have the ability for members of the public to either make comments when they come in person, or like some did tonight, you can email. That contact information is found on our website. You can email questions, and comments will be read during the meeting. So is that what you were looking for, Mrs. Wagner? Okay, perfect. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we are going to move on.
Mike,
sorry,
actually,
yeah.
no, sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Sorry.
It looked like you wanted to say something. That was why I was waiting.
I kept trying. It was coming. It was coming. No, I just wanted to add on, welcome to our 2 new board members. If you had any questions about what happened tonight or obviously going forward in the next couple of weeks, it is a fire hose. There's a lot of information, and our administrators are great, but they also like to use acronyms and words that we don't often understand coming from the public, the lay people. So please feel free to reach out to any of us. Again, like Laura said, our numbers, you know how to get a hold of us. Anytime, almost anytime, day or night. Feel free to contact us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dino.
All right. If there are no other comments from the board, we're going to move on to our second open public comment section. This is for any items germane to the district. The purpose of bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings, is to recognize the value of public comments on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the participant must preface any comment by an announcement of their name and place of residence. Statements made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration, and no participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements, questions, or inquiries shall be directed to the board president. And I'm going to open our second open public comment section at 9:12 p.m. Once again, anyone who would like to make a comment or ask a question can use the raise hand feature within Google Meet, or they can make a comment in the chat section with your name and address, and I will call on you to unmute yourself. I will wait a minute to see if anyone steps forward. Donna Szynski. Mrs. Szynski, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you can ask your question or make your comment.
Okay, thank you. Donna M. Szynski, 64 Pure Place. And I don't think I congratulated you, Mr. Anderson. Congratulations. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you,
Okay,
Mrs.
good.
Szynski. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, so I don't know about, I'm guessing, I'm assuming that you haven't had everything set in stone yet regarding the testing and that kind of stuff, right? Am I correct on that?
Are you referring to the COVID testing or?
Yeah, the test to stay and all that stuff.
So there's a couple of testing things. So we have regularly scheduled weekly testing on Wednesdays. Is that what you were referring to, or the
test to stay?
No, Dr. Forte. I think you made a comment earlier about that. If you want to just answer that question again, Dr. Forte.
Yeah, we haven't started anything to do with test to stay or any new guidance from the Department of Health at this time.
Okay, that's what I understood from the last. Okay. And again, it is guidance. We're all in agreement there. The testing, again, it's segregation, it's discrimination if you're only going to test unvaccinated children. Vaccinated children, can give and get COVID, give and spread COVID. They should not be privileged at all. We're supposed to be following the New Jersey Constitution. It's discrimination, and it's against the SEL you wish to teach. Again, the radical political group too, that's problematic. I really need to know the answer to that. Is the superintendent and assistant superintendent allowed to talk to political groups and come up with, you know, it's a public school. It shouldn't be based on politics, or it shouldn't be based on religion. All religions should be welcome. All political affiliations should be welcome. Critical thinking should be taught, not indoctrination. Are you going to start recognizing natural immunity? I know you guys can't answer it, and it's okay. I'm just putting that on here. It does not make any common sense to test healthy children, especially after they've had natural immunity. It seems many are suffering from mass psychosis. I'm going to reread my email. Can we please start making common sense and using real scientific data? There's so much data. Masks don't work. Testing, you can test positive for COVID 3 months after you had it. 2 years ago, no one would have dreamed of testing a child for the flu simply because they were in close contact with someone who had it. You would definitely not have tested a healthy child who already had the flu that year. Please, please take this and think about it, critically think about it. Many people are so confused by this. We are the parents, okay? I understand that you have to keep a level of public safety, and I respect that. However, a healthy child should not be quarantined for 14 days, especially after they had the disease. It's like requiring a child that had natural chickenpox to quarantine because they were around somebody with natural chickenpox. Measles, the same thing. Please don't tell us you're following the Board of Health. They're simply recommendations. The parents are the ones who should be making these decisions. Again, I thank you for your time. Happy New Year. I really hope it's a better New Year, and I really hope you guys start talking to us instead of radical political groups. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Szynski.
And it's Mrs. Szynski, Mr. Anderson. My mom's Mrs. Szynski, but you can call me Donna. Thank you.
No problem. Sorry about that. Anyone else who would like to make a comment can either use the raise hand feature or can type their name and address in the chat feature, and I will call you. And I don't see any other comments in the chat feature. Dr. Forte, just to confirm, no other emails have come in?
No emails.
Okay. No additional public comments. So I'm going to close our second open public comment section at 9:18 p.m. We'll move on with our agenda. Mr. Cass, would you mind moving us into executive session? And once again, actually, sorry, before you do that, I apologize, Mr. Cass. Just to confirm for the public, we're going to be going into executive session. We will not vote on any items coming out of executive session. So we will come back out to close the meeting, but otherwise we will not be voting on any additional items. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Cass.
I move to convene an executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss either negotiations, legal security, and personnel issues. Minutes of the session will be made available to the public where the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
I'll second.
Second.
Who got that, Mrs. Zagrowski? It's close.
I'll give it to Mr. Capello. Yep.
Mr. Capello. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cass. Thank you, Mr. Capello. All in favor?
Aye.